Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes can see the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. It's time to switch it up, put the hip shit on the shelf. Cause the way the real wealth is being real with self. My eyes can see the glory of the coming of the left. I can't do it by myself, so I'm asking for help. Money. Like Kanye West said, having money is not everything. Not having it is. No, Deuteronomy 8:18 says God gives us the ability to create wealth. No, it's the love of money that's involved. You know, like money so much, why do you get up and go to work? Yeah, I do get about one of the things that my things got. I'm just trying to leave a legacy for money. That's not everything, but when you got it, you can do some cool stuff. Now, your host for Talking Money in the Morning, financial mentor to the working class.
Good morning. It is your main man, H. Cortez here, the one and only financial health mentor to the working class, where I do my absolute very best to bring practical yet proven wealth building strategies to working men and women all over this great nation of ours. Welcome to the show this morning. This is Talking Money in the Morning live. I do count it an honor and a privilege that you guys have decided to tune in and hang out with me this morning. If you're checking us out on Facebook, do me a favor, share the stream. Let's get people involved in this conversation. Today's show, we've got a good one for you. We're talking about the 3 types of education that you need to survive in this country, but the one you need to thrive in this country, you never get. Right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit this morning. So do me a favor, share the stream for me. If you're watching us on YouTube, then I want you to go ahead and grab the link and share it in your favorite social media site, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, wherever you like to hang out. Share the link in that platform, and a lot of times they can watch the stream right inside of that platform. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in this morning. As always, who is today's show for? It's for the same people it's always for. It's for the risers and grinders this morning. If you rolled out of bed, put your feet on the floor, and you're about to get up, get out and get something for you and your family, this show is for you. If you have aspirations to be wealthy, if you have the discipline, the desire, but maybe you lack a game plan, strategy, and a mentor, this show is for you. If you're the type of person who's thinking about what you're doing today and have a keen understanding of how it's going to affect your tomorrow, this show is for you. And if you're like me, and you think intergenerationally, and you're thinking about what can I do today that will make my great-great-grandchildren proud to bear my name, this show, my friend, is for you. Now, who is this show not for? If you're that person who's got that weird relationship with money, man, this show ain't for you, man, because I can promise you, you will always repel money away from you and never attract it to you if you're one of those people who think capitalism is a dirty word, you think money is evil, and if that's your thought process, this show is not for you. If you're the type of person sitting back waiting to see if Hillary's going to win or Donald Trump is going to win so they can fix the economy instead of focusing on your economy, this show, my friend, is not for you. Now, let's be clear. I don't have a problem with you not wanting to be wealthy. I only have a problem with you if you have a problem with me wanting to be wealthy. Just like it's your prerogative to want to be average, it's my prerogative to want to be way above average. And if you've never seen a future billionaire, I want you to take a screenshot, take a good look, because you're looking at one right now. And if you have a problem with me just saying that, then I promise this show is not for you. Today's show is brought to you by National Credit Educational Services. If you need credit restoration, this is a great company for you to reach out to. And if you don't understand the difference between credit repair and credit restoration, again, this is a great company. They will help educate you on what you need to do to repair your credit yourself. Or if you're like me and just say, you know what, I don't have the time, I don't have the patience, I would just rather pay somebody to do it for me. They charge a single flat fee. I think it's $350 and they will get your credit all the way right for you, and not just a one-time thing. It's a continuous education. It's a continuous process to keep your credit score improving, and again, truly restore your credit and not just repair, because sometimes repair just means wipe everything off. Well, you wipe everything off, you wipe off your history that can help your score too. So no, they teach you how to repair your score, or they will repair it for you. If you need more details on that, inbox me and I will give you the link to the National Credit Educational Services so you can partner with them to get your credit restored. Now, today we're talking about the 3 types of education that you absolutely fundamentally need to survive in this country. But the one that you need most to thrive in this country, you never get. It's never taught in schools. It's not even taught at the college level. Even when you study economics, it's not taught, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Number 1, of course, you absolutely have to have your basic scholastic education. You have to know how to read. You have to know how to write. You have to know how to count. And the school system, for the most part, with a lot of parent involvement, will get your kids or get you into the place where you understand how to do basic, get that basic education under your belt: reading, writing, arithmetic, a little bit about language, little history, and all of those sorts of things you will get under your belt. And that stuff is absolutely needed. You cannot survive in this world if you can't read. You cannot survive in this world if you can't count. So that, okay, I get that. Education in our country focuses heavily around those things. But guess what? If you're not getting that, then a lot of times parents are having to do that on their own in addition to the schools, because we've gotten to a place where schools are overcrowded, they're underfunded, and things of that nature. But you absolutely have to make sure that that basic education is solid, because again, that is the foundation of everything, right? I tell my sons all the time, if you are struggling to read, then you're going to also struggle in science. You're also going to study and struggle in social studies. You're also going to struggle in communication arts, because those subjects or have a heavy amount of reading and things of that nature involved. So reading comprehension, basic mathematics, you have to have that stuff. Now, we can debate all day on whether or not U.S. history is important for your survival in this country, right? We can debate whether or not literature or literary history is important in this country or not, because we know that you've all got those certain books that you have to read coming up through school, Moby Dick and all that kind of. We can debate whether or not that stuff is really, really necessary. Now, in the terms of just practicing your reading and your scholastic education, that's good. But sometimes that stuff is mandated. And when you think about why it's mandated, you have to really come to terms with some of the accusations that are put out against our school system, like the accusation that it is indoctrination. Because one thing that I trip off of all the time. Now, I've raised 5 sons, and then a nephew and a cousin. So I raised 7 boys, put them through school, right? And it never amazed me that every year, these kids are going through the exact same thing every year. And first, I thought it was just me. And because I had so many coming up through the same grades, I'm thinking this is just the course. You know, I'm just saying it over and over because now I'm on my 3rd child, I'm on my 4th child, I'm on my 5th child. I'm thinking I'm just saying the same thing over and over. No, there were times when all 5 of my sons were all heavily involved in studying colonialism, right? And I'm thinking to myself, between my oldest son and my youngest son, it's about 7 or 8 years. So I'm thinking, he's in high school and they're studying the colonies. He's in 3rd grade and they're studying the colonies. The ones in 5th grade studying the colonies. One's in 7th grade studying the colonies. I'm like, damn, how much studying of the colonies do we have to do, right? And then you have to think to yourself, how does that help them other than being socially acceptable? Because Think about, how does knowing the colonial history really help you in your day-to-day? Now, I get it. There's some times where you may have to go back to that if you continue your education through college and those sorts of things. But again, why study that? And that's not, there's nowhere in my day-to-day life is the knowledge of how the country was founded and formed, and the knowledge of some of those people, the Quakers and all of those stuff, the separatists. How does that really help me in my day-to-day today, right? And they study that every year for 3 and 4 months, right? And it's like, okay, I get that. You need to know how to read. You need to know how to write. You need to know how to do basic addition, subtraction, mathematics. You need to understand how to deal in formulas and complicated problems and all that. I get that, right? But then some of the other stuff that we're force-fed, you have to ask yourself, is this true indoctrination, right? You know, or are they building in patriotism as, you know, as we're young and going through this school system? So you have to ask yourself that, because to this day, I have never been anywhere in my life where I was in a position to try to make money to feed my family, and I needed to know what the Quakers were all about, right? Now, if you are going down that path to be a politician, then yeah, you need that. But most Americans in their day-to-day life will never need to know or have memorized the 13 colonies, right? And what were the economies in those 13 colonies. And I know this stuff because, like I said, I put 5 kids to school, 7 kids to school, and they've all seen to study this for 3 months at a time. And I'm like, come on with the colonies already. We learned this stuff in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And my kids are in high school doing dioramas and stuff about the colonies. I'm like, damn, there's more to that my kids need to know. So 3 basic educations, one of which you absolutely need to thrive in this country and you never get. So number 1 is your basics. You get it. You got to have your basic education. Number 2, the second type of knowledge is your vocational education. So what is that? That is your skills that will lead you to your career profession, right? So if you are going to be an attorney, then you need a certain knowledge about law to take that into a career field. So that's a vocational education. If you're going to be an engineer, you need certain knowledge about science and mathematics to get you to that career path of being being an engineer. That is the vocation. If you're going to be an electrician, electricians have a different language. You have to understand vocational education. That's the education that leads you down your career path. That's a special education for a special type of career. If you're going to be a plumber has a different language. So that skill of being a plumber, that's a vocation. So that's an education that's separate from your basic education. You got your basic reading, writing, math, sciences, and things of that nature. But a plumber can use some of those basics, but it gets real specific to that craft. So you have to have vocational education if you're going to thrive or survive in this country. Everybody's going to have to ultimately have a job. So you're going to have to know something in a vocational capacity in order to maintain, and advance in a career. So I get that. Basic education is very important. Vocational education is very important. And when it comes to vocational education, I'm the guy who hates the fact that they've taken that vocational education out of the school system. There was a time when all of our children would have a vocation under their belt before they graduated high school, right? But what did they do? They took that out of the public free education and they monetized it by giving it to the ITTs, the Vatterotts, the Brown and different institutes. And now our children have to graduate from high school without a vocation, then go pay for education in their vocation. So I didn't really like that point. So But again, I'm a capitalist, so I understand how the money game is played. Why give you something for free that I can charge you for, and then the government is going to loan you the money and back those loans so that you can borrow the money to go to a battery, to learn electrical, to learn plumbing, to learn HVAC. I get that, but all of that stuff, while we were learning the colonies for 7-8 years, we could have been learning a vocation a couple of those years too. So that's my point, is that there's 3 types of education that you absolutely have to have if you're going to survive. But the one that you need if you're going to thrive, they don't teach you in school. Number 1 is basic. Got to get your reading, math, basic science, fundamental understanding of how your environment works and all of that good stuff. You've got to have some sort of vocational education. What are you going to be able to do to earn a living for you and your family? What kind of career path you're going to have? That's a separate education, usually a more specialized education. And then the one that you absolutely need if you're going to thrive in this country is a financial education. And that's the one that you absolutely will not get in school, period. Even if you go to school and you study finance, you don't get the financial education to use that information for you to thrive in your own personal finances. You will get an education, for instance, if you become a CPA, that will teach you how to help a company's financial situation and how to help a company thrive, but you don't get the financial education that you need to know to help you thrive personally. Now, you will take basic economics and they will teach you how to write a check. They will teach you what credit is and what debt is, but nobody's teaching you how to leverage that stuff to ultimately thrive in today's society. And I have a problem with that, guys. The number 1 reason I have a problem with that is because sometimes your basic information, your basic education is not needed in every single decision that you're going to make, right? Sometimes your vocational education is not needed in every single decision that you're going to make. But when it comes to money and finance, money weighs heavily in almost every single decision that you make throughout your life, every single day. And that's why I love the line that Kanye West said in the one song. He said, I get that having money is not everything, but not having money is. Who you guys think about money more, wealthy people or poor people, or people who are struggling? See, there's some things that wealthy people can do, some moves that they can make where they absolutely never have to think about money. Like if they decide to go sit down and eat at a restaurant, for instance, they don't have to think about the cost of the meal, right? Wealthy people, when they decide to go sit down at a restaurant, they don't think about money. What about poor and struggling people? They think about money every time they get ready to sit down at a restaurant? It dictates when you're going to go, where you're going to go, how long you're going to stay, how much you're going to eat. Sometimes it even dictates whether or not you're going to have water or a soda to drink, to have with your meal. So if money is heavily involved in the decision-making process of most people, why isn't there a better emphasis on teaching financial literacy in our school system, right? You have to ask yourself this question. Now, if you're like me and you're saying to yourself, personal financial success is getting educated financially, absolutely right. And most people aren't doing that, Brian. They're not, because they take for face value that what the school system provides is all you need to survive. And they are absolutely right. The school system will give you what you need to survive. But if you ever want to elevate over surviving and start thriving, then you need a strong financial education. Point blank, period. If you don't understand how this money game is played in this country, you will always struggle perpetually, generation after generation after generation. And guys, I'm not telling you what I heard, I'm telling you what I know. I come from this, and this is where my passion to teach this comes from. You know, my great grandparents struggled financially. My grandparents struggled financially. My mom was on welfare, and when I, as an early in my early adult years, I struggled financially. So that's 4 generations. So somebody had to, in my family, say, wait a minute, stop the press. There's a piece of the puzzle that we're absolutely missing, because if not, if the puzzle was complete, we wouldn't all be going through the same repetitive struggles. And the piece that is missing, not only in my life, but in most Americans' lives, is a solid financial education, right? That's the piece that's missing. You're not going to get it in school. So that's the piece that you're going to literally have to do for yourself. You're going to have to figure out how to study this subject on your own and get to the place where you become proficient. A few areas that you're going to have to understand if you're going to build wealth, if you're going to not even just build a massive amount of wealth, if you're just going to thrive in this country and get above just basic survival, right? You've got to understand the tax code in this country. And it basically says this, and most people don't get this. We talk about different tax brackets, and we talk about that out of context, because for the most part, we think that your tax bracket is determined by how much money you make. The tax bracket is not determining about how much money you make. The tax bracket is determined by how you make your money. Not how much you make, how you make your money. Most Americans make 100% of their income through labor, working a job. When you make money with labor, you are taxed the absolute most, right? There's 3 ways that you can earn money in this country: as a laborer, W-2, a job working for somebody else; as a business owner; or as an investor. When you make your money as a business owner, you get hundreds of write-offs. The net effect of your taxes on your business is anywhere from 18 to 23%. Whereas when you make money with labor, you're taxed 28 to 33%, right? And that's just your income tax. That doesn't include Social Security. That doesn't include real estate. That doesn't include personal property tax. That doesn't include city tax if you're in the city. That doesn't include state tax if you're in a state like Missouri, like I am, who have a state tax. So when you're finished with all of those taxes, school tax, gas tax, when you finish with all that, most working class people are paying anywhere from 50 to 60% of their income in taxes. You're struggling because you're trying to live off 40% of your income, right? You have to understand this for yourself. The school system is not going to teach you this. You have to understand this for yourself. You have to understand debt, how debt affects you, how debt robs you of your wealth. Fellas, I like to point this directly at you, because we are commissioned by God to be providers and protectors of our family. If you don't understand that debt is attacking your family and that you need to attack that debt with a vengeance, I want you to get this very clearly. Just like any other enemy that comes to attack your family, most men will stand up and defend that family. But at the same time, a man won't stand up to his wife and say, babe, no, we're not going to no doggone renter center and get some finances for some damn cheap ass furniture. You know why, babe, we're not going to do that? Because debt is the enemy of my family, and I'm commissioned to protect my family. So if we want some nice furniture, we're going to save some money, exercise a little bit of discipline, and then we're going to go pay cash for that furniture. That's the type of mentality that you have to have, fellas. You have to not only fight and attack the debt that you currently have because you didn't know this. Now that you do know this, you have to fight and defend against acquiring any new debt, and then get rid of any current debt that you do have. Now, in the same breath, right? In the same breath, you also have to understand how to leverage debt to acquire assets. And what am I talking about here? If you got a 720 credit score, right? That's why the show is always sponsored by the National Credit Educational Services, because I want you guys to get your credit score intact. A 720 credit score allows you to personally guarantee business credit. And if you watch this show, you know good and doggone well that I'm always about you having a business, because when you have a business, you make money through a business, then you can access the tax code. And when you taking the write-offs that are allowed to you through business, then you can save money that would typically be going to Uncle Sam. That money stays in your pocket, gives you more money to invest or build your business infrastructure. But if you get a 720 credit score, you can leverage that credit score against business credit. You can start a business today. You can take that 720 credit score and use it to acquire business credit, usually lines of credit through a credit card. Say, for instance, you have a business in the area of real estate. You start your own real estate company. Good credit score allows you to now get a credit card in the amount of $25,000 to $50,000. So we leverage that credit to buy assets and not buy junk. You don't take that and go buy a big screen TV and swear it's for your business. No, you take that credit, $25,000, and maybe you take $5,000 and use that as a down payment on a 4-family unit, right? Now you get that 4-family unit, you have an asset. You put tenants in that unit. Now the tenants pay back not only the mortgage on that asset, but also pay back the $5,000 that you borrowed on the credit card. So one, get out of personal debt and understand how that's affecting you. But two, understand how you can systematically leverage credit and debt to build assets, to buy assets. Because that's the difference, that when you hear Robert Kiyosaki and those guys talk about the difference between good debt and bad debt. If I can acquire debt that somebody else is paying back for, and then when they pay that for, I own an asset, then that is what's considered good debt, right? As long as there's equity in that asset, all right? So understand leveraging debt, but get out of any personal debt. All right, inflation, that's something else that we have to understand. If you don't understand inflation, the fact that we are using a fiat currency that's backed by nothing, that is a debt note in its inception, that means every dollar that is created as a dollar with interest attached to it. As a result, every dollar, that fiat currency basically is backed by nothing. So what it appears, how it affects you and me, is that the cost of living is going to go up every single day. Now, if the cost of living is going up every day, let me ask you something. Do you get a raise on your job every day? The cost of living is going up every day. Do you get a raise on your job every day? No. As a result, you're going to continue to fall further and further behind financially if you don't understand inflation. That's why you have to have assets that will increase in value faster than the rate of inflation. If you don't have that going on in your life, that's what you're aspiring to. That's why you're watching this webinar, so you can start understanding, okay, now I need to know, I need to get a book on taxes and how taxes affect me as a working person. I need to start learning and studying that. I need to start studying debt, how to get out of debt, how debt is really affecting me, how compound interest works against me. But then I also need to understand how compound interest works for me when I'm earning interest on the money that I have invested. So this is the financial education that you have to go get for yourself, because the school system is not teaching this, right? You have to understand, okay, how does inflation really work? How does that affect me? How can I get ahead of inflation? I know I can't do it on a job, so what kind of investments do I need to have in place to get me ahead of inflation? Got to start learning this stuff on your own, because you're not going to get it in school. You have to start learning this stuff so that you can teach your children, because your children won't get it in school. Right? So somebody has to make some tough sacrifices and start doing something differently to save future generations. What we're telling our children, here's what we're telling our children, is in order for you to be better than me, I need you to go to school and get a better education than I got, so that you can ultimately end up with a better job than I have. And then when you have a better job than I have, just by simple mathematics and logic, we think if our child has a better education, he has a better job, then he will fare better in life. That's not the case, because you got to understand financial knowledge. Financial knowledge says it's not about how much money you make, it's how you make that money. So if he has a better job, even if he's making $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, if he's making that money with labor, he's going to be taxed the most. 33% of his income is going to be taxed. If he doesn't understand inflation, he's going to lose that income every day. The value of the dollar is losing. The dollar is losing value every day. So he's going to struggle financially because the cost of living is going to increase. Wages on his job will not keep up. So eventually, even when making $200,000 a year with labor, he's going to struggle. And what that leads to is him getting into debt. He's going to finance the car. He's going to finance the house. He's going to finance the furniture. He's going to finance everything because he didn't learn financial principles. So you have to teach principles. So even if he does find himself in a better job than you have, if he doesn't have a financial education, he's going to find himself in the same struggle. Ask me how I know, because we've been in this perpetual struggle generation after generation after generation. Every generation so far has always produced a generation of kids who work better jobs than their parents. But what do those children end up doing? Struggling the same way their parents did. Not because they didn't get a better job, better education. They didn't get the right education. They didn't get the right education. So you got to have a financial education that goes along with the scholastic education and the vocational education. You've got to have the financial education. And then the last thing that you have to start to understand is the difference between assets and liabilities. You got to understand investments. You got to understand things that have true value and things that have no value, right? We tend to spend our money on things that do not increase in value. In fact, we spend our money on things that lose value immediately the moment we walk them out of the store. Is your TV worth the same amount that you paid for it the minute you walk it out of the store and take it out of the box? Hell no. Because the minute you buy that TV for $300 and you walk it out of the store has another TV that comes right behind it for less money. So how is your TV used now worth $300 when they got the TV for the same size, same specs, and that TV is at the store for less money than you paid for your $300 TV? Got to understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Understand this if you don't understand anything else. You, my friend, are a liability on your company's balance sheet. If the name of the game is to keep your assets high and your liabilities low, now you understand why wages on your job have flatlined, because you are a liability on your company's balance sheet. And any company worth its weight in salt is going to always keep those liabilities low. So when you understand that, now you start thinking to yourself, I need to start getting myself out of debt, understand inflation and taxes. And when I get out of debt and understand inflation and taxes, I'm going to spend the rest of my life acquiring income producing assets. That's the name of the game, because the more assets that you accumulate and acquire, the more value your net worth starts to increase, because of the things that you own are worth something. Most people have a negative net worth today because they don't own anything that's worth anything, including their houses. Most of the houses are now, in this current real estate economy, are upside down. You owe more than your house is actually worth. So that equals a negative net worth. So we got to fix this stuff, guys. And we are at the bottom of the hour. We've gone over. I apologize. I try to be prompt and on time. Today's show is brought to you by National Credit Educational Services. If you are in need of credit restoration, then send me an inbox and I will send you the link to the National Credit Educational Service so that you can get your credit restored properly. And there's a difference between credit restoration and credit repair. Get your credit restored and we can help you. I will send you that link. So if you drop me a link in YouTube, then I will send you the link over there. Matter of fact, I'll just put the link in the description. Looks like I'm running into some trying to connect trouble on Facebook. But if it ever connects and you guys want to get the information on the National Credit Educational Services, let me know. I will put that link in the box. But guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I am your main man, H. Cortez, financial health mentor to the working class. Until I talk to you in tomorrow's episode, I want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. Peace out.